Deep down, in each of us, is a plane of intestinal processes of the alimentary tract. The instinct to eat, also known as hunger, is one of our most elementary psychic instincts, and the psychology of the belly plays an important part with the primitives and children. The less a person's ego or consciousness is developed, the more his state of mind depends on whether he is satisfied or not, or thirsty or not. But what does the food exactly mean for the ego consciousness? How did it affect our brain and evolution? What role did the food play in our mythological stories and psychic life? Find answers to these and more questions in our new episode of the Alchemy of the Psyche series. If we take a look at the embryonic ego, we see that nutrition is the only important thing for it. The same goes for the infantile ego, which sees the maternal Uroboros as the source of food and satisfaction. Uroboros is also called a tail eater, and the symbolism of the alimentary tract is apparent throughout the whole stage. Uroboros is symbolically understood as the Great Mother archetype, a place where everything is contained and eaten. As Bachofen describes, the so-called swamp stage of the Uroboros, an early matriarchate, is a world in which every creature devours every other. As we can see, cannibalism is a driving symptom of this stage. As this stage isn't sexual but rather pregenital, the tension of the sexes isn't prominent. There is only a stronger that eats and a weaker that is eaten. This evolutionary stage could best be seen from the behavior of bacteria. The first bacteria that ate another absorbed its power, its life force, and thus became stronger. This bacteria drove the evolutionary process onwards, unconsciously aiming for the betterment of its kin, as, strangely enough, Nietzsche would say towards the Übermensch. In this animal world, the visceral psychology of hunger sets the foreground where hunger and food are the prime movers of mankind. Before we continue, be sure to smash the like and subscribe button as it helps a lot. Your support is kindly appreciated.
In all initial creation myths, we can find a PreGenital Food symbolism, which is rather transpersonal as it originates from the original collective level of symbols. As Erich Neumann says, the systole and diastole of human existence center on the functions of the digestive tract. Eating equals intake, birth equals output, food, the only content being nourished, the fundamental form of vegetative animal existence. That is the motto." End quote. We can freely make an equation that sounds like the following: live equals power equals food. And this was the earliest formula for gaining power over anything, and it even appears in the oldest of the pyramid texts where they say of the risen dead the following: the sky clouds over, the stars rain down, the mountains stir themselves, the cattle of the earth god tremble at the sight of him, as he appears before them with the living soul of a god, who lives upon the fathers and devours his mothers. It is he who devours men and lives upon the gods, the catcher of skulls. He catches them for him. He of their resplendent head watches them for him and drives them to him. Their great ones are for his breakfast, their lesser ones for his dinner, and their little ones for his supper. Whomsoever he meets on his ways, he eats raw. He has taken away the hearts of the gods. He has eaten the red crown and swallowed the green crown. He eats the lungs of wise men. He is content to live upon hearts and their magic. He rejoices if he can devour those who are in the red crown. He flourishes, and their magic is in his body, and his glory is not taken from him. He has devoured the understanding of all the gods.
If we look in the East, in India we can find a similar symbolism, where in the process of creation the first divinities fall into the sea where hunger and thirst are represented as negative powers of the primeval waters. On this account, it says the following: Hunger and thirst said to him, here him meaning the self, for us too also find an abode. To them he said, I assign you two a part among these divinities. I make you two partakers among them. Therefore, to whatever divinity an oblation is made, hunger and thirst become partakers in it. He bethought himself, here now are worlds and world guardians. Let me create food for them. He brooded upon the waters, and out of them that were brooded upon, there arose a form. The form that arose is food. As we can see, food became a cosmic content to be obtained, and when the self managed to obtain it with the apana, meaning digestive breath, he consumed it. Only in another passage do we find that hunger is symbolized as death. If we look at the Uroboros, it has a deadly side, and thus we can say that it is the eater and devourer. But Hermes, what does this exactly mean for us today, you probably ask? Well, in today's language, these elemental images persist. We still speak as our primitives of the devouring war, consuming disease, and the death's maw. We tend to bite more than we can chew, or even bite our tongue. We can be consumed by our work, by a movement or idea, or eaten up with jealousy. Moreover, being eaten and swallowed is a prominent archetype in all of the medieval paintings of hell and the devil.
In Hindu religion and mythology, food is a face of Brahma, and it says the following: From food all creatures are produced, all creatures that dwell on earth, by food they live, and into food they finally pass. Food is the chief among beings, therefore they call it the panacea. Verily he obtains all food, who worships Brahma as food. For food is the chief among beings, therefore they call it the panacea. All creatures are born from food, by food they continue to grow. Creatures feed on it upon creatures, therefore is it called food. Brahma rises through tapas, from Brahma comes food, from food, breath, spirit, truth, worlds, and in works, immortality. In the Maitrayana Upanishad, a relation between the world and God is equivalent to that between the food and the eater of it. God, once glorified as the world nourisher, begins to be seen as the devourer of world, for the world is God's sacrificial food. On the primitive level, conscious realization is called eating. When we talk of the conscious mind assimilating an unconscious content, we are not saying much more than is implied in the symbol of eating and digesting. To conclude this video, let's read a longer quote by Erich Neumann on food. Wherever liquor, fruits, herbs, etc. appear as the vehicles of life and immortality, including the water and bread of life, the sacrament of the host, and every form of food cult down to the present day, we have this ancient mode of human expression before us, the materialization of psychic contents, by which contents that we would call psychic like life, immortality, and death take on material form in myth and ritual and appear as water, bread, fruit, etc., is a characteristic of the primitive mind. Inside is projected outside, as we say. In reality, there is a psychization of the object. Everything outside us is experienced symbolically, as though saturated with a content which we coordinate with the psyche as something psychic or spiritual. This material object outside is then assimilated, i.e. eaten. Conscious realization is acted out in the elementary scheme of nutritive assimilation, and the ritual act of concrete eating is the first form of assimilation known to man. Over this whole sphere of symbolism, looms the maternal Uroboros in its mother-child aspect, where need is hunger and satisfaction means satiety. The assimilation and ingestion of the contents, the eaten food, produces an inner change. Transformation of the body cells through food intake is the most elementary of animal changes experienced by man. How a very enfeebled and famished man can turn into alert, strong and satisfied being, or a man perishing of thirst can be refreshed or even transformed by an intoxicating drink. This is and must remain a fundamental experience so long as man shall exist." End quote. I guess you must be hungry by now, so I'll let you go eat something. See you in the next video, and thanks for rebuilding Olympus.